The silver platter slips from trembling hands. I watch it fall. Crystal wine glasses shattering across marble, Chateau Margaux bleeding into white grout. And I see what nobody else sees. Judge Katherine Reeves doesn't apologize. She doesn't meet anyone's eyes. She just kneels, her Valentino dress soaking up $10,000 wine, and starts picking up glass with her bare hands. "Katherine, for God's sake," Judge Harrison Reeves barks from the head of the table. "That's what we have help for." His eyes cut to me, standing in the corner, wearing the same uniform his wife wore yesterday when she served me breakfast, when she called me ma'am and wouldn't look at me directly. When I realized what I was seeing, "Your Honor," I say carefully, deliberately, "perhaps Mrs. Reeves should sit down. She looks unwell." The dinner party goes silent. 8 of Connecticut's most prominent legal minds staring at the black maid who just spoke without being spoken to. Judge Reeves's face darkens. "Grace, that will be all." But I don't move. Because Katherine Reeves is bleeding now, glass embedded in her palm, and she's still cleaning, still performing, still so terrified of her husband that physical pain doesn't register as permission to stop. I've seen this before. In mirrors. In my mother's face. In the faces of women who learn that survival means silence. Not this time. "Your Honor," I repeat, louder now. "Why is your wife serving dinner?" 4 weeks earlier, the Reeves mansion sits behind gates in Hartford's wealthiest enclave. Federal judge. Appointed for life. The kind of man whose rulings affect thousands, whose integrity is supposed to be beyond question. The kind of man who needs a live-in maid after his previous one quit without notice. Mrs. Chun from the agency drove me herself. "Judge Reeves is very particular," she warned. "Exceptional references required. Discretion mandatory. The last girl didn't work out." "Why not?" Mrs. Chen's pause spoke volumes. She was young. I think the isolation got to her. The judge travels frequently for cases. You'd be alone with Mrs. Reeves much of the time. Something in her tone made my spine straighten. "Is Mrs. Reeves difficult?" "No." Mrs. Chen pulled through the gates. "She's very kind. Almost too kind. Like she's apologizing for existing. I know that kind. I was that kind once." The woman who answered the door took my breath. Katherine Reeves was stunning, 43 according to my research, but could pass for 30. Blonde, elegant, perfectly composed in cashmere and pearls. The kind of beauty that photographs while at charity galas. The kind of beauty that hides everything. "You must be Grace." Her smile was rehearsed. "Careful. Please, come in. I'll show you around before Judge Reeves returns." The house was a museum. 20 rooms. Art worth millions. Everything pristine, sterile, controlled. Katherine walked me through it like a docent describing someone else's life. "Harrison prefers dinner at 7 sharp. He takes calls until 9. I manage the household, but he oversees the menus, the schedule, the staff protocol." "What about what you prefer?" I asked. She froze. Just for a second. Then laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "I prefer what makes things easier. What he needs. That's my job. You're his wife, not his employee." "Sometimes," she said quietly, "there's no difference." We reached my quarters, a suite nicer than anywhere I've lived. Katherine explained schedules, expectations, the judge's routines with mechanical precision. "He's very particular about privacy," she said. "What happens in this house stays in this house." The last maid didn't understand that. Protection that looks like prison. Security that means surveillance. Love that leaves bruises nobody sees. "Mrs. Reeves," I started. "Katherine, please." She touched my arm, light, desperate. "And please, Grace, don't ask questions. Just do the work. It's better that way. Safer." Before I could respond, the front door opened. Judge Harrison Reeves entered like a storm system, 6'2", silver-haired, commanding. The kind of presence that demands deference. He looked at me once. Through me. The new girl. Not a question. To Katherine. "Does she understand discretion?" "Yes, Harrison." "Good." He walked past us both. "Dinner at 7. I have briefs to review." Katherine's whole body had changed, smaller somehow, compressed, like she was taking up less space. "I should start dinner. Brace, perhaps you could unpack? I'll call if I need anything." She disappeared into the kitchen. I stood in that perfect hallway, in that museum of wealth, and felt the familiar weight settle in my chest. The weight of seeing what no one's supposed to see. The first week, I learned the rules. Judge Reeves spoke rarely. Orders, never conversation. He worked constantly, traveled for court, returned expecting everything exactly as he'd left it. Katherine moved through the house like a ghost, cooking elaborate meals, managing schedules, apologizing constantly for things that weren't errors. I'm sorry, the roast is slightly overdone. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you come in. I'm sorry, I'll fix it immediately. Sorry, always sorry, even when nothing was wrong. On day 4, I noticed the bedroom locks. From the outside, Katherine had given me the master key. Sometimes Harrison works late, she'd explained. If he's stressed, I sleep in the guest room, so I don't disturb him. Locks on the outside meant she wasn't choosing to leave. She was being removed. On day 6, I heard them. Katherine's voice, pleading. The judge's, cold and cutting. You're being hysterical. I just thought we could. You don't think, Katherine. That's the problem. You react emotionally. It's embarrassing. I'm sorry. Sorry isn't strategy. Sorry isn't discipline. Do better. Silence. Then Katherine emerged, red-eyed, and asked me brightly if I'd like tea. On day 9, I found the medication. Bottles and bottles, all prescribed by the same doctor. Anti-anxiety, sleep aids, antidepressants. Enough to keep someone sedated and compliant. Katherine caught me looking. I have trouble sleeping. Harrison worries. He makes sure I have what I need. Do you feel like you need all this? Her laugh was hollow. I don't know what I need anymore. Harrison says I'm not well, that my judgment is compromised. He's probably right. What if he's not? She looked at me with eyes that held oceans of fear. Then I've wasted 15 years believing a lie. And that's scarier than the truth. On day 12, Katherine asked me to run an errand. There's a dress at the boutique downtown for Harrison's dinner party next week. Could you pick it up? I'd go myself, but she trailed off. But what? But her husband controlled when she left? But she was afraid of doing something wrong? But she'd been isolated so long she'd forgotten she was allowed. Why don't you come with me? I suggested. Get out of the house. Get some air. Panic flashed across her face. No. Harrison wouldn't. I mean, he'd want me here. In case he calls. In case he needs something. Does he usually call? Sometimes. I need to be available. Available. Like a service. Like hired help. I picked up the dress. When I returned, Katherine was in the kitchen preparing ingredients for the party. A dozen courses, everything homemade, everything perfect. You're cooking all this yourself? I asked. Harrison prefers my cooking for important events. Says it's more personal, more impressive. Her hands moved mechanically, chopping vegetables with precision. They'll tell them I spent days on it. They'll compliment him on having such a devoted wife. Why does he get the compliment? She paused. Because he chose me. He made me this. I was nothing before Harrison, a paralegal with student loans and a studio apartment. He gave me this life, this house, this position. And what did you give him? Everything. The word hung between us. I gave him everything, and it's still not enough. Her hand slipped. The knife caught her finger. Blood welled, bright red against pale skin. Katherine stared at it like she couldn't process what she was seeing. Then she wrapped it quickly, tightly, and went back to chopping. Don't you need to? It's fine. I'm fine. Dinner prep doesn't stop for a cut. But she wasn't fine. None of this was fine. That night, I heard the locks click. Heard Katherine's door seal from the outside. Heard Judge Reeves's footsteps pause, then continue to his study. I lay awake thinking about my mother. About the boyfriend who isolated her. Who told her she was lucky he put up with her. Who made her believe that love meant erasing yourself to make room for someone else's ego. About how I'd watched it happen. How I'd been too young to name it, but old enough to remember how she apologized for breathing too loud. About how she finally left when I begged her to. When I gave her permission to save herself. Katherine had no one to give her permission. On day 15, the judge hosted a small gathering, colleagues, discussing a controversial case. Katherine served drinks, offered hors d'oeuvres, played hostess with mechanical grace. Your wife is lovely, one woman judge commented. Harrison smiled. She's my greatest asset. Knows exactly how to make things perfect. Katherine's hand trembled slightly as she poured wine. No one noticed but me. Later, cleaning up, she dropped a glass. It shattered. She froze, eyes darting toward the study where Harrison worked. It's okay, I said quickly. I'll tell him I broke it. No. Urgent, frightened. No, don't lie. It's worse if he thinks you're covering for me. Just help me clean it before he sees. We scrambled, picking up pieces, wiping wine, erasing evidence. Like criminals. Like children hiding from a parent's wrath. Katherine, I said carefully, why are you so afraid of him? She stopped moving, sat back on her heels. For a moment, I thought she'd tell me. Then, you don't understand what it's like to have everything you are tied to someone else's approval. To know that who you were before doesn't exist anymore. That if he's done with you, there's nothing left. That's not true. It is for me. She stood, composed herself, became the perfect wife again. Thank you for helping, Grace. We should both get some rest. But neither of us rested. I heard her pacing in her locked room until dawn. The dinner party was in 6 days. Katherine prepared like she was staging a military operation. Menus revised daily. Practice runs of dishes. The house cleaned until it gleamed. Harrison's. Colleagues are coming. Important people. Everything has to be perfect. What happens if it's not? She didn't answer. Didn't need to. Her fear was answer enough. I watched Judge Reeves issue orders, critique preparations, demand changes. Watched Katherine absorb each criticism, adjust, apologize, try again. The salmon is too dry. I'm sorry. I'll prepare it differently. The wine selection is pedestrian. I'm sorry. I'll choose better. Why is the silver not polished? I'm sorry. I'll do it now. Sorry. Always sorry. Even when she'd done nothing wrong. On day 20, I made a decision. I called Mrs. Chun, the last maid who worked here. What really happened? Silence. Then, she saw things she couldn't unsee. She tried to help Mrs. Reeves. Judge Reeves had her blacklisted from every agency in Connecticut. Why didn't she go to the police? Against a federal judge? With what evidence? Katherine told everyone she was fine, that the maid was overreacting, that she was grateful for her husband's care. And you believe that? I believe, Mrs. Chin said carefully, that Katherine Reeves is a prisoner who forgot she has the key. I hung up knowing what I had to do, knowing what it would cost. The night of the dinner party arrived. 8 judges. Wealth and power concentrated in one room. Everyone dressed impeccably, discussing cases and precedents in the law. The law, as if it applied to them. Katherine cooked alone. I wasn't allowed in the kitchen during final preparations, Harrison's rule. She emerged hours later with course after course. Each one perfect, each one proof of her devotion. She served silently. The invisible woman. The trophy wife performing her function. Until the wine. I saw it happen in slow motion. Katherine lifting the bottle, her hands shaking, from exhaustion, from medication, from fear. The bottle slipping. The crash. And Katherine on her knees, bleeding, cleaning, apologizing. Katherine, for God's sake. That's what we have help for. That's when I understood. He'd trained her. Slowly, methodically, over 15 years. Trained her to serve him like staff. To erase herself. To perform submission until it became identity. Judge Reeves looked at me expectantly, waiting for me to clean his wife's mess. To reinforce the hierarchy. To stay in my place. I thought of my mother. Of Maya, the daughter I'd lost to a system that valued power over truth. Of every woman told her reality was hysteria. Your Honor, I said. Why is your wife serving dinner? The silence was seismic. Judge Reeves's face went from confusion to anger to calculation. Grace, you're dismissed. No. I stepped forward. She's bleeding. She's terrified. She's locked in her bedroom at night. She's medicated into compliance. She's serving you like an employee while you tell people she's your greatest asset. This is outrageous. This is abuse. I turned to the other judges. You're officers of the court. You swore to uphold justice. Are you going to sit here while a woman bleeds at your feet because her husband trained her to believe she's worthless? Katherine made a small sound, half sob, half gasp. One of the women judges stood. Harrison, what is she talking about? She's a disgruntled employee with delusions. I have the key to the bedroom locks. I interrupted. I have photos of the medications. I have recordings of him berating her. I have documentation of isolation, control, and systematic psychological abuse. This was partially true, partially desperate. But Katherine's face, stricken, terrified, and somehow relieved, told me I'd hit the mark. Katherine, the woman judge said gently. Is this true? Katherine looked at her husband. At me. At her bleeding hands. Then she whispered. Yes. The word detonated. Judge Reeves launched into damage control. Katherine was mentally ill, being treated, confused by her medications. I was a troubled employee projecting. This was a private matter being sensationalized, but the other judges weren't buying it. Too many of them had seen domestic violence cases, knew the patterns, recognized the signs. Harrison, one of the male judges, said quietly, "Perhaps you should recuse yourself from this conversation. This is my home, and these are serious allegations. If they're false, an investigation will clear you. If they're true." He let that hang. Katherine sat at the table now, still bleeding, still shaking. The woman judge, Justice Maria Torres, I'd learn later, sat beside her. "Katherine, I need you to tell me the truth. Are you safe here?" Katherine's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know anymore. I haven't known for years." "Does he hurt you physically?" "No, not exactly. He's never hit me. But he," her voice cracked, "he makes me small. He makes me nothing. He locks me in rooms when I displease him. He controls everything I do, everywhere I go, everyone I see. He tells me I'm sick, that I need him, that without him I'd fall apart. And the medications? I don't even know what half of them are. His doctor prescribes them. Harrison makes sure I take them. I'm so tired all the time. So foggy. I can't think clearly." Justice Torres looked at me. "And you documented this?" "Some of it." I pulled out my phone, showed photos of the locks, the medication bottles, the schedule Katherine followed. Played a recording of Harrison berating her. "This isn't sufficient evidence for criminal charges," one judge said. "No," Justice Torres agreed. "But it's sufficient for Katherine to leave. Tonight. Right now." Harrison exploded. "You can't. She's my wife. She's a person." Torres cut him off. "With rights you've apparently forgotten. Katherine, do you want to leave?" Katherine stared at her hands, at the blood, at 15 years compressed into one question. "I don't know where I'd go," she whispered. "Anywhere," I said. "Anywhere is better than this." She looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw her seeing herself, seeing what she'd become, seeing what she'd lost. "I had a life before him," Katherine said slowly. "I have friends, a career. I was going to law school. He said he'd support me, but then there was always a reason to wait. His career needed focus. The house needed managing. I wasn't well enough. And eventually, I forgot I'd ever wanted anything else." "You can want things again," Torres said gently. "Can I?" Katherine's voice broke. "I don't remember how." "Then we'll help you remember." Torres made calls. Within an hour, a domestic violence advocate arrived. A lawyer specializing in divorce from high-profile abusers. A therapist who dealt with coercive control. Katherine packed a bag while Harrison raged, threatened, bargained. His colleagues watched him unravel, watched the mask slip, saw what Katherine had seen for 15 years. "You'll regret this," he told Katherine. "You'll come crawling back. You're nothing without me." She paused at the door, looked at him. "Maybe, but I'd rather be nothing on my own terms than everything on yours." Then she walked out. I followed. The scandal was immediate. A federal judge under investigation for domestic abuse. Ethics committees. Media coverage. His colleagues distancing themselves. Harrison Reeves resigned within a week. Took early retirement. Settled the divorce quickly and quietly to avoid criminal charges. Disappeared into the anonymity he'd denied Katherine for 15 years. Katherine stayed with Justice Torres initially, then found an apartment. Small, modest, nothing like the mansion. She loved it. "It's mine," she said, showing me around. 2 rooms. Basic furniture. Windows that opened. "Every decision here is mine. What to eat, when to sleep, whether to lock the doors. I never realized how much freedom is just being allowed to choose." She started therapy. Stopped most of the medications. Turned out she didn't have half the conditions Harrison's doctor diagnosed. The fog lifted. Energy returned. The woman she'd been started emerging from the shell she'd become. "I'm angry," she told me one afternoon over coffee. "I lost 15 years. My career, my friendships, my sense of self. I'm 43 years old, and I'm starting over from nothing." "You're starting over from yourself?" I corrected. "That's not nothing." She smiled, a real smile this time. "You're right. And I'm lucky. Most women in my position don't have federal judges as witnesses. Don't have someone brave enough to ask the question everyone else ignores. 'Why is your wife serving dinner?' I quoted. Such a simple question. Such an obvious one. But no one else asked it. They just accepted that's how things were." She reached across the table, squeezed my hand. "Thank you for not accepting it." Katherine went back to law school. At 43. Starting over. Sitting in classes with students young enough to be her children. She sent me photos, her at a desk, textbooks open, exhausted and exhilarated. I forgot how much I loved this, she texted. I forgot I was allowed to love anything. She specialized in family law, coercive control, domestic violence, cases where abuse doesn't leave visible marks but destroys lives just as thoroughly. I understand now, she told me, how it happens. How you don't realize you're drowning until someone throws you a rope. How normal gets redefined so gradually you don't notice until you can't breathe. She won her first case 3 years later. A woman whose husband controlled her finances, her friendships, her reality. The judge didn't see it as abuse because there were no bruises. Katherine made them see it. Made them understand that prison doesn't require bars. That abuse doesn't require fists. She called me afterward, crying. We won. She gets to leave. She gets her life back. Like you did, I said. Like we both did. I still work as a maid sometimes. Not because I need to. Katherine helped me get certified as a domestic violence advocate. But because that's where I see things. In wealthy homes. In perfect marriages. In situations everyone assumes are fine because they look fine. I see the locks. The control. The apologies for nothing. The fear disguised as devotion. And I ask questions. Simple questions. Obvious questions. Questions no one else asks because asking means seeing, and seeing means acting, and acting means disrupting the comfortable assumption that wealth equals wellness. Why are you apologizing? Who chose that? What do you want? Sometimes the answers are innocent. Sometimes they're not. I've helped 4 women leave since Katherine. Connected them with resources. Given them permission to trust themselves. Reminded them they're allowed to want different lives. It's not enough. It's never enough. But it's something. On the 5-year anniversary of that dinner party, Katherine and I meet for lunch. She's a practicing attorney now, working with domestic violence victims. She still has hard days. Trauma doesn't disappear, but she has her life. Her choices. Herself. I heard Harrison move to Florida, she says. Married again. Someone young. I wonder if she knows. Maybe she'll figure it out, I say. Or maybe someone will ask the right question. Someone like you. Someone like us. I correct. You walked out that door, Katherine. You chose yourself even when it felt impossible. That's not something I did for you. That's something you did. She's quiet for a moment. Then, I've been thinking about writing a book. About coercive control in affluent marriages. About how abuse hides in plain sight when people don't want to see it. You should. Will you help? Your perspective, what you saw, what you noticed, it's crucial. I think about my mother. About Maya. About all the women I couldn't save and the few I could. Yes, I say. Someone needs to tell the truth about power and control and how abuse looks different in marble mansions. Someone needs to teach people to ask questions, Katherine adds. Even uncomfortable ones. Especially uncomfortable ones. 6 months later, we finish the manuscript. Serving dinner. How coercive control hides in wealthy households. It's published by a major press. It makes bestseller lists. It starts conversations. Mostly, it gives women permission to name what they're experiencing, to trust their instincts, to believe that discomfort is data, that fear is information, that feeling trapped means you probably are. We do interviews together, speaking tours, training sessions for lawyers and judges and advocates. What made you speak up? People ask me. Someone had to, I answer. And I was tired of watching women disappear. They ask Katherine, what kept you there so long? Fear, she says simply. Fear that I was wrong, that I was overreacting, that leaving would prove I was as weak and incompetent as he said. Fear is the most effective prison. What changed? Someone asked why I was serving dinner. She looks at me. Such a simple question. But it made everyone else see what I'd been living. It made me see it too. And seeing it made leaving possible. The book spawns legislation. Training requirements for judges on identifying coercive control. Better resources for affluent victims who don't fit the stereotype of abuse survivors. Recognition that domestic violence crosses all economic lines. It's not revolution. It's incremental change. But it's change. And it started with a question. I still think about that night sometimes. The shattered glass. The blood. Katherine on her knees. The moment everything shifted. I think about how close it came to not happening. How easily I could have stayed quiet. Let it be someone else's problem. Kept my place. But I kept my place before. Watched my mother suffer in silence. Watched Maya die while I trusted authorities who were wrong. Watched women disappear into marriages that looked perfect from the outside. I was done watching. So I asked a question. I spoke up. I risked everything to name what everyone else pretended not to see. And I'd do it again. Every time. Because silence protects abusers and kills victims. And I refuse to be silent anymore. If this story touched you, if you've ever felt invisible, ever served someone who took you for granted, ever wondered why no one noticed your suffering, I want you to know something. You matter. Your reality is valid. Your instincts are trustworthy. Your right to dignity and choice and safety doesn't disappear because someone else's comfort depends on your silence. Ask questions. Trust yourself. Speak up when something's wrong. And if you see someone serving when they should be sitting, someone apologizing when they've done nothing wrong, someone afraid in their own home, ask why. That simple question might save a life. It saved Katherine's. It might save yours.